Today, let's look at how to measure segments and angles. Years ago, I had a student who, instead of calling it a protractor, would call it an amateur tractor, and I didn't know what he meant. This says, I support farming. I guess you could say I'm pro-tractor. On our agenda today, we're going to measure segments with a ruler and measure angles with a protractor. Let's get ready. You're going to need your notes and a pencil. And if you could find a ruler or protractor around the house, that would be helpful just to have in your hands and take a look at. But I've taken pictures to show you in here. So here's our ruler. And just think about things that you notice. I noticed there's a little gap at the end. So right there, I don't want to hold the end of the ruler at my point. I want to hold 0 at my point. So make sure you're starting at 0. The other thing I notice is how many little tick marks there are, and there are 16 there. So that's going to help me when I'm measuring to be a little more specific in my detail. If I measured right to here, that's going to be 1 and 1/16. The 16th becomes my denominator. So let's try to measure this one. Notice I put A right at 0, and then I have B coming all the way here. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 tick marks. So 1 and 8/16. But I also know that that reduces to 1.5. Let's try this one. I am at 0. I'm going all the way to 2 and a little bit more. 1, 2, 3. So this becomes 2 and 3/16. Make sure you put your units. I forgot that on my last slide. So this would be 2 and 3/16 inches. I switched the ruler around, and now what do you notice? Well, there's still a gap, and it's an even bigger gap this time. So make sure you're measuring your end of your segment right there to start at 0. And now this time there's 10 little tick marks, which we're more used to having 10 tick marks. So let's try to measure this. I put E right at 0. There's 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, 3 centimeters, and then 1, 2 little tick marks. So this becomes 3 and 2/10 because my denominator is 10, which I could simplify to 3 and 1/5 centimeter. Now let's think about how we could measure an angle. So we're not going to do it with a ruler, but our question becomes, how big is this angle? So I want to measure how wide that is opening, how wide this ray swings from the start. So here's part of our protractor, and there's a lot of information. Just take a minute and look at it. And notice this says angles opening right, like this. So this is, you're going to use the right-hand side if you're measuring here, and you want to use the lower scale because look, there's a 170 or a 10. So the lower scale, that would be an angle like that. This would not be a 170-degree angle. The bottom, this is just a ruler in centimeters down here. So we're going to be measuring this way if it opens right. So we're going to talk about how to use a protractor, and if you have one in your hands, you would put the protractor, the middle of it, sometimes there's a circle, sometimes the dot, right on the vertex. And then you want to line up part of it right here so that the protractor would kind of look like that. And let me show you on the next slide. So here we're going to place the dot or that open circle. There's usually something to tell you where the vertex goes. Then this has a black line. If you notice that right there, I line that up with the starting ray. And then I read to my other ray. And it looks a little tricky. It could be this or it could be this. So use what you know about it. This is an acute angle. It can't be that 130. And then it's somewhere between 50 and 60 because some kids, it looks like it's just a little bit past 50, but does that mean it's 49 or does that mean it's 51? But because I can see that I'm reading up the numbers and that was 50, I would say that this one is 51 degrees. Oh, and I kind of gave it away. There's 51. It's not 129. So we're reading, again, make sure if you know it's acute, make sure that the angle is less than 90. Good job. We'll practice in class.